Hello and welcome back to the channel. So here in the UK, the price of the Ryzen 7 9800X3D has dropped again. And I thought that this was as good a time as ever to revisit the chip, see what that means for your next upgrade, and also help you get the most out of this beastly CPU. So let's take a look and see if this deal is as hot as your GPU after a marathon gaming session. The 9800X3D is AMD's flagship gaming CPU. It boasts 8 cores, 16 threads, and up to 5.2 GHz boost. It also has 96 megabytes of L3 cache, thanks to AMD's 3DV cache. It's also built on the AM5 platform. But why does all of this matter? Well, that 3DV cache gives it a serious edge in gaming, especially at 1080p and 1440p, making it a top pick for competitive and enthusiast gamers. So here's the scoop. The 9800X3D has dropped to about $399 in the UK. That's actually a drop from its usual £450 to £500 price tag. In the US, sadly, it has stayed around the same, at about $479, but I thought I'd mention it just for anybody in the US. That's actually a bigger price drop than we saw earlier in the year. So why is there discount now? Well, it could be down to a number of factors. One could be that there's increased availability in stock, and the other could be that AMD are feeling the heat from some of Intel's latest CPUs, or the rumours of the Zen 6 chips being on the horizon are true. But actually, this is a really good time for PC builders because there's a nice sweet spot where you get a high-end CPU for a mid-price. Okay, so now for the slightly more exciting part, the real-world gaming statistics, so we can see where the 9800X3D outpaces competition. Cyberpunk, up to 20% faster than Intel's 14900K. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, smoother frame times, better 1% lows. In esports titles like CS2 and Valorant, you can expect 200 plus FPS at 1080p. It's also very, very efficient. Less heat, less power, quieter builds. And for creators and streamers, it holds its own, but for pure productivity, users probably still might sway to the latest Intel chips. And here are some recommendations to make the most out of this deal. So in terms of pairings for this CPU, when it comes to the GPU, I would recommend the 4070 Ti Super or the RTX 4080 for the more high-end gaming. With motherboards, I'd go with a B650 or an X70 board. The key here is not to overspend. Usually £150 to £200 gets you some very solid features. With RAM, I would go with DDR5 6000 CL30 RAM. 32 gigs is the sweet spot for gaming, and 64 gigs for creators. When it comes to PSU and cooling, the 9800X3D does run cool, but as I've stated in previous videos, don't cheap out. So the added bonus to all of this is that the AM5 platform is future-proof. AMD themselves have promised support until 2027, so this still makes upgrades really, really easy. So let's now talk AMD and Intel alternatives. So, in terms of Intel's 14900K is still very, very good for productivity. It is a little bit hotter and less efficient in gaming though. The AMD 7800X3D is still a killer value, but in all honesty, it's now only 8 to 10% slower than the 9800X3D for a similar price. So if your budget is tighter, in terms of AMD, the Ryzen 7 600X and the 7700X are still very, very strong choices. But for pure gaming, obviously, as we've been talking about it this whole time, the 9800X3D is still the king at this price. So let's now talk a little bit about AMD's future roadmap. So obviously they still do have the 9950 X3D coming, but obviously we can expect that at a much higher price. And then there's Zen 6. That's likely to come about in about 12 to 18 months' time. So this new drop might create a wave of new deals, but right now, especially in the UK, the 9800X3D is still the best bang for your buck. So is now the time to upgrade? Well, if you want top tier gaming with a future-proof platform, then the answer is yes. But if you're more about the value and productivity, then it might be worth weighing up your options. So now's the time when I want to hear from you. Are you upgrading or waiting for the next big thing? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe so that I can continue to bring you updates. I've got a hand-picked video coming up for you now, and please join me again for more nerdy fun. Thanks guys, and take care.